In this lesson, we're going to be multiplying radical expressions. So when you're working with radical expressions, it's good to know that you are allowed to split one radical into the product of two, or to multiply those two radicals back together again. So you can see here I have a radical containing the product of A and B, and then I have split those two radicals into the product of radical A times radical B. And this is known as the product property of radicals. It states that the square root of a product, for example, the product A times B, is equal to the product of the square roots of the factors. So those factors are A and B, and we have split them into the product of two square roots. This allows us to simplify radicals. For example, if I wanted to simplify the square root of 24, I could split that into two radicals, 4 times 6. I can take the root of 4, which is 2, and end up with a simplified radical expression, 2 radical 6. So we've been simplifying radical expressions, and now we are going to be multiplying. Notice that all of the problems at the bottom of this screen are multiplication problems. In order to multiply two radical expressions, you will multiply the outside times the outside, meaning the coefficients in front of the radical symbols, and then we will multiply the inside times the inside, and then we will simplify the expression at the end. So let's get started. For example A, the first thing I'm going to do is rewrite this expression so that I can see the coefficients on the outside of my radicals. Notice that neither one of these radicals has a number in front, so each one has an understood 1 coefficient. So I have 1 radical 2 times 1 radical 6. Now I'll multiply the outside times the outside, so 1 times 1, which is 1, on the outside of the radical, and then I will multiply the inside times the inside, and so I have 2 times 6 on the inside, which is 12. Now, if we end up with just a 1 on the outside, we don't have to write that 1 coefficient, but we do need to simplify the radical 12. So I want to divide radical 12 by some perfect square. Remember, our perfect squares are 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, etc. But those are too big going on from there. 25 is too big to divide into 12, 16 is too big to divide into 12, and so is 9. But 4 goes into 12 3 times. So I'm going to split my radical 12, into radical 4 times radical 3. And then I can take the root of 4 and bring it outside, so I end up with 2 radical 3 for my answer. For the next example, we'll do the same thing. I'm going to make note that the coefficient outside of my first radical is a 2, and the coefficient of my second radical is a 1. And now I'll multiply the outside times the outside, giving me a coefficient of 2 on the outside of my radical, and then I'll multiply the inside times the inside, and 3 times 48 is 144. And then I want to simplify. I'm going to start looking for perfect squares that go evenly into 144, and actually 144 is a perfect square. 144 is 12 squared, so the square root of 144 equals 12. So I don't have to simplify that one. I actually can just bring a 12 out of the radical, and I will multiply it with the 2 that's already in front. So I bring down my 2, I replace the radical 144 with 12 because those are equivalent. The square root of 144 is 12, and then I will multiply 2 times 12 to get 24. For the last example in this group, we'll do the same thing, multiplying the coefficients outside times outside. 3 times 5 is 15. That'll be on the outside of my radical. And then we'll multiply inside times inside, and 2 times 10 is 20, giving me radical 20. And then we are ready to simplify. So the 15 will stay on the outside, and we are going to split 20 into a perfect square factor, and the remaining factor, 4 times 5 is 20. And then we will bring out the square root of 4 and multiply it with the 15. The square root of 4 is 2. And then we'll multiply 15 times 2 to get 30 radical 5. So that's it. When you're multiplying two radical expressions, you multiply the outside times the outside, and then you multiply the inside times the inside, and then you simplify by bringing out any perfect squares and multiplying them times the coefficients that are already there. Now you're ready to practice on your own. Good luck.